Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, a quick update on some interesting anomalies, weather-related, technology-related, one and the same thing in these days. And we want to thank our Patreons, our newest Patreons, for their support.
Indeed, we want to say a huge thank you.
Yes, to Dane and Philip. Thank you guys for your support, and we couldn't do it without you guys. So remember, there's been just so many things, if you don't remember, it's perfectly fine. I wouldn't expect you to remember everything that's going on. It's been too much to keep up with. But we had that interesting anomaly that it turned out there was another anomaly like that anomaly in the same year. And then we had National Weather Service experiencing major outages all over the U.S., and, it came right after that anomaly, and honestly, it feels like they were going to do something, and they wanted to make sure nobody would get track of this one, because this is, again, the apocalypse, which just means the big reveal. Well, if you remember what Cindy was saying, and I was also sharing, I keep seeing wet, and cooler, wet and cooler. And when you have major volcanic eruptions, we haven't seen anything really yet, but I think we will, as far as major volcanic eruptions that could literally cool the planet down, and also just disrupt growing cycles. And that's part of everything that we see going on, is kind of an attack on being able to be self-sufficient and have food growing. It's all over the globe. It really, really is. And you have Mount Ruang over here. This is in North Sulawesi, Indonesia. Alert level raised to 3 earlier today. People are being evacuated from this area. As you see, it's a stratovolcano in Indonesia, and it's undergoing a significant eruption. The previous eruption was in 2002, but interestingly enough, when I saw this in the year 1871 is one of the most interesting years ever. It is, really, 1871 from the banking standpoint, it helped to give us what we have now in place as far as Albert Pike. There's so many things that happened in the year 1871. Well, this volcano went too. It erupted and triggered a locally devastating tsunami, measuring 25 meters. 25 meters tsunami, that's significant. That's a wave that's terrifying. Killed around 400 people. Mount Merapi, I can't believe this guy said it with a straight face. The most active volcano in Indonesia with a meteor streak falling into its crater. A hole-in-one! What angel shot that hole-in-one? Yeah, tell me another. Do we have morons out there? How stupid are people? It's just mind-blowing. He's an engineer. And he's either an idiot or he's on the take. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I do see people who are usually the more education you see, the more it is difficult for people to believe anything outside of the 3D realm. And that's the whole point of education. It's educating the ability to critical think or ask questions or, just make a judgment call. And it educates out of you the ability to say, hey, that don't look right. I'm going to go kind of do some investigating and see what else it could be. It keeps you from doing things like going within and asking yourself, what's up with this? It has a purpose, but more often than not, I see it really makes it difficult for people to find their way out of certain things, situations, even life circumstances. If someone's really, really educated, they tend to not look around for anything that they might be doing wrong, because to them, they're just going by the system. They're doing what they need to do. But I'm looking at this and I feel a very large being is what I feel. I also feel like there's this magnetic type of energy pulling this thing in there. So it is it has very curious vibration to it when I check.
Yeah, it's curious. It kind of reminds me of the book of Job, and when God and Satan are having a discussion. Maybe they were shooting 18 holes talking about the Trump trial, and all of a sudden, miraculous shot straight in the volcano. Yeah. It could be, yeah. And the sad part is some people would believe it. They really would believe it. But technology is all around us all the time. And don't forget Mount Etna blowing her smoke rings. His smoke rings, her smoke rings. Her smoke rings feels a little bit more like, that almost looks like a little gray looking at us. Holy cow, that's kind of curious, isn't it? Fun times. Now keep this in mind. The UAE to carry out hundreds of cloud-seeding missions in 2024 to tackle water scarcity. Well, let's first say that what Cindy immediately got is there is no water scarcity. There's water below us, water on the planet's surface, and water above us. Yes, that is one of the spots where the Bible had it a little bit more closer than modern science in that, space is not a vacuum. It's more akin to a much less dense form of water, so to speak.
There's plenty of water. The scarcity is a complete and total lie. The ones that create the scarcity, unfortunately, though, are the controllers. So if they want to tell you, oh, no, water is scarce, we have to do this thing, I mean, we're totally at their mercy. We have to listen to them because we don't have the technology or the ability to tap into the earth, tap up into the sky and pull water, even though there are ways and means to do that.
Absolutely. And we preface this because when you look to what's going on in Dubai, now Dubai, again, this is desert, although it is pretty green, but they've spent a lot of money in Dubai. It's one of the kind of the jewels when you talk about cities on planet Earth at this point in time. Are there many that are more advanced than Dubai? Not too many, if any, really. And here you see amazing storm in Dubai that's going on. The sky actually turned green due to heavy rain, supercell thunderstorm. As you see the UAE, reeling under hazardous weather. Red alert issued across the country. Dubai airports temporarily diverting all inbound flights. It's that bad. It is that bad. It's actually pretty insane. This is Toby Cunningham, who has been there for a relatively long period of time, according to what he was saying on his videos today, because he keeps making videos saying, I have never seen anything like this here. Never seen anything like this. Look at the visibility. Crazy windy. This is another person, Mega Marani. I've lived in Dubai my whole life. I've never seen it rain here like this. Hopefully everybody gets home safe and soon. As you can see, visibility is extremely limited, and the lightning is shooting out. And by the way, if you've never even looked at pictures of Dubai, if you look at it and then you look at some of the cities here in the U.S., you could see that there's a huge difference in the technological advances and the architecture and everything in Dubai and other nations out there too. Southeast Asia has some amazing cities. And what we see in the U.S., it's because, again, the U.S., they have other plans for us, so to speak. But insane weather. Dubai saw more rainfall in one day than typical in an entire year, 5 inches. Now that's basically on par with our old home in Amargosa Valley. 5 to 6 inches of rain was all we would get there in a typical year. Here they got it in one day. Killed 18 people as up to this particular video. And here they're fast forwarding through some of the views. Incredible. Now, if you remember, Cindy was saying when she was talking about response and Israel's response, she was saying there's going to be a response that people won't recognize as a response, and it's going to be weather related. Because Israel has more weather control technology than any other nation on the planet. And they do have other technologies which no other nation has. Because, if you really read the Bible in the Old Testament, it's not that they're quote unquote God's chosen people, as in the Creator. They're the chosen people of the being known as Yahweh. And what is that really? Well, that's, again, as we said, that's one of, in using the biblical terms, one of the Elohim, which, when you look at it the way they used it in ancient times, it really means the beings that judge and rule over humanity. So the Elohim judge and rule over humanity. And Yahweh is their particular Elohim, as the Elohim had divided up nations amongst themselves. As you see how bad the flooding is that's, again, inside a mall. So what we really have is, that they are directly under one particular, Lord of hosts, really, again, hosts, and it translates into armies, conquest. These are warrior beings. These are beings that very, very much are out to conquer and subdue. And this is what they do. That's the bigger realization that the world has to awaken to. And the world will wake up to that point at one way or another when they're directly confronted with this. This looks more like you're going to go out on a cruise, but no, it's the airport. Pretty crazy weather.
Very, very wet. And I know Mike picked that up too for days, if not weeks before this happened. He was seeing floods. He was seeing really, really gnarly weather. It was really concerning him quite a lot. So I feel we both picked up on this one in some way, shape, or form. Now, when it comes to Israel and their technology, they have weather technology that's way up and above what the controllers would have. I mean, just the human technology. They have this stuff that's a level or 2 or 5 above the rest that is utilized. So, this is where the Lord must have gotten angry at these guys. Here is what happened, and they were hit. And who's going to be able to prove it, because this technology isn't anything that we are aware of. So this is really horrible, because in the desert, I mean, the ground is not created to be able to absorb water. So you get a lot of really nasty situations. The water, it doesn't have a choice. It has to just go up and invade and go wherever it can. So this was a really, really scary thing for a lot of people. And the ground, when things are built, it's not built to drain water. So I don't know how long it's going to take for these people to get things back in order. And then what if it happens again? Do they have to start thinking about drainage ditches? I would, because I kind of think it could happen again. If it happens once, you can't look away anymore.
And what I was seeing was way beyond this too. They were showing me a several different things. One was a place that feels kind of familiar. I want to say it feels like the American Southeast coastline, and there's bridges, and the water in the bridges is much higher and much stronger to where it's kind of sweeping everything away. It feels like there's a serious coastal event, and that makes me think it could be related to the big quakes when they go off, which, if I had to place a bet, I think that we are looking, really in the next several months, with the highest probability in my mind is still leaning towards, this year. I really think that's most likely, but at the same time, I do see that there are some things that are not going along exactly, as quote unquote programmed. So we can divert timelines. Nothing is set in stone. Again, there is this one part in the Bhagavata Purana where this Rishi is given a vision beyond the birth and destruction of a universe. He actually sees the birth and destruction of a universe, and then the rebirth of a universe yet again. And what does he see? He witnesses the epic, the Ramayana, and the epic, the Mahabharata, multiple times. And I forget, one of them was like 13 times, the other 17 times. Every single time, the outcomes were different. Every single time, the outcomes were different. Think about that. It is an amazing allusion to the fact that nothing is really fixed. Every single one of our consciousnesses can change the outcome. And that's why we push so hard in trying to awaken people to change the outcomes. But I do think, again, that they are intent on setting off these series of events. And their marker was the eclipse, and that is already past. Now it's in our rearview mirror. So I really think you should be prepared for anything. But don't count on a tax refund. Because here you go. I mean, the way they put this too, my God, they think we're stupid. A tax mystery? Why are fewer people getting refunds? The number of people who owe the government's been rising. And again, and the other thing in here too, the way they actually read this, write this, it's almost like, again, this is a voluntary thing, Oh, yeah. But again, they will definitely relieve you of your property, and we have friends that could tell you of that. Friends that were very well established and, thought they didn't have to, pay taxes, and they were relieved of their property and put into liens and lost everything, absolutely everything. So if it seems like you're not getting a tax refund like you used to, you're not alone. The share of taxpayers who got money back at tax time is slowly and a little mysteriously shrinking. At the same time, the number of people having to cut a check to the government has been rising. The number of refunds so far this year is down by 3.3%. 33. You can't make this up. 33. This is a message again. Clearly, this is a message. And, at the same time, when I read this, I see that, for me, it hits me clear. This is maybe the last year that the U.S. government is going to exist like it does. And in fact, it just feels like they're hinting at the entire thing. Let me just read the rest, just for ha-has. While no one's exactly sure why, some point to changes in the way people work. Others suspect it has to do with the way government calculates how much tax should be withheld from people's paychecks, and the reversal of fortune could have consequences for how and whether people comply with tax laws. Yeah, comply with tax laws. We want to make sure that people are, in fact, filing, says Bob Kerr, a former longtime IRS official, now a Washington-based tax practitioner. And there are a whole bunch of people who do it because it pays to do it. Wait a minute, do it because it pays to do it? I think there really is going to be a problem. Before the pandemic, about 3/4 of filers typically got refunds. Now about 65% do. The IRS distributed fewer refunds last year, 105 million than it did in 2010, despite collecting 20 million more returns. Refund dollar amounts are holding fairly steady. For those who've gotten one this year, the average payment is $3,011, up $133 from last year. Some say the drop in the number of refunds going out the door is a good thing because getting one is tantamount to giving the government an interest-free loan by overpaying your taxes earlier in the year. But refunds are touchy politically and economically. People use them as a sort of forced savings. They interpret them as a barometer of how well they're faring under the tax system, and they look forward to big payments at tax time. For some, it's the largest single payment they'll receive all year. Some tax vets wonder what a decline in refunds will mean for tax compliance. Some people file because they feel it's their duty, and others because they're afraid of the IRS. But the promise of a four-figure payment is a key way the tax agency, not to mention the tax prep industry, lures people to do their taxes. 2 out of every 3 taxpayers that are going to file by tonight's deadline are actually owed a refund, so it's in your interest to get your taxes done. we're going to pay you. Suddenly owing the IRS can be especially rude awakening in the wake of the plague upon the land outbreak, when refunds surged as the government doled out hundreds of billions of dollars in assistance. It's a big change from pre-pandemic years when the number of people getting repaid at tax time was extremely predictable. So, the number of people owing taxes are surging. Nearly 40 million people had balances due, up from a third from pre-pandemic years. And obviously, they wanted to double the entire size of the IRS. This whole thing is unconstitutional in reality, and we know this. We know this, and yet they still exist. The IRS, really, when you get down to it, it works for the control system, doesn't work for us. The money literally goes to the UN. It gets funneled into the UN, and it's actually supporting projects like the migrant invasion that we are under right now. And isn't it fascinating that 1871, what a year 1871 was, when it comes to the monetary changes. I mean, we had the Chicago fire, you had the Constitution changed, it goes on, and that was the year, again, Albert Pike went and said there'd be 3 world wars. Is this all just a coincidence? Little Kitty says no.
Kitty says, I know better. I just do. And I was looking at the what had happened to Dubai also, and one thing that did float through my energy field is a concern for earthquakes. Reason being is because water is a very good conductor. So I don't know if this is a 1-2 punch for them. Get the ground and get the area prepared, and then get it shaking. I hope not. I really, really hope not. But we have been picking up on disturbances. So I just hope everyone's okay. Hopefully we can change timelines, and that's not anything that could actually happen. But it is a good time to simply remain prepared. I know they have our heads on a swivel. They have us looking here, looking there. And, some things are true and some things are not. But, all I can do is tell you, just don't get sucked into it. Look at it like a TV show. Don't give your emotions away to them. Do not. Just kind of watch and stay prepared.
Absolutely. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.